Welcome back, guys. Once again, as we here at Hashtag Sports are examining the Buffalo Bills signings in the 2025 offseason. Obviously, we're moving past the tampering period, and all these guys are officially getting signed by the Buffalo Bills. Make sure that you continue on with this series. We're going to be releasing it all week. Today, we're going to be talking about Khalil Shakir inking a 4-year, $60 million deal, saying he's still going to drive a Subaru for some reason, but that's fine with me. He's one of those Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott guys. The Buffalo Bills getting their wide receiver one, shall I say, ish, in the type of offense that Joe Brady wants. Obviously, you know, you have to take some of those things into consideration when you're signing players like this. Do they feel that Shakir is one of these guys that can play if they have to change offensive coordinators at the end of the season? Never really thought about that in the 2025 offseason to kick it off, but here at Hashtag Sports, that's one of the things that we do. Paul, I got to ask you something. To have a consistent receiver who is just a pinball, and he's so fun to watch. What does this deal mean for the Buffalo Bills? And does this mean that they're not going to draft any wide receivers? I mean, we'll get to Josh Palmer in a minute, but does that mean they're not going to draft any wide receivers in this upcoming draft?
You know what? It's what would it be if it's not another season of the wizarding world of Brandon Beane? And the fact of the matter is, you have Shakir locked up, which is great. Again, you're not paying him wide receiver one money, so I don't think you're anywhere near done here. But you did just lose your number one playoff receiver in Mac Hollins to the Patriots. My wife was actually really upset about that. I'll be honest.
So was I.
Yeah, she was like, "Wait, really?" I was like, "There's no way they weren't paying him $4 million a year." I was like, that wasn't going to happen. I don't blame him. But Shakir is one of those players that when you look at the stat sheet, you go, "Wow, what an impact to the game!" And then you see the breakaway runs and you see the broken tackles. You're like, "Man, I just don't know how it happens." Right? It's like this. How does he make it? Because it's nothing flashy. Right? Like, I've never looked at a Shakir run after the catch and been like, man, that's the guy you drafted, right? No, like
in the fifth round.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. You watch him work and you say, man, I did not see that coming. And every big play from Shakir has always ended with, wow, I just didn't see it coming. And now in Buffalo, you got a lot longer to watch Shakir, and hopefully they can add enough pieces around him to keep him loose enough where he can continue to be an effective weapon. And I think that's probably where this contract sits, right? I think it does a great job of getting a ton of value for a player that would have been worth a lot more on the open market because, just like everybody else, the wide receiver free agent market is crazy town when it comes to contracts. Bills got a great value here. And again, a player that just keeps surprising. And the Bills are just going to keep throwing 4th, 5th, 6th round picks on wide receivers. They do it almost every season, and they're certainly not going to be immune to that this year. But Joe, like when Shakir gets locked up, is it like a yeah, we did it? or is it a no, this is I would have been upset if it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think I would have been more upset if it didn't happen. One thing I've loved about Shakir the few years he's been here, and especially this past season, is he's the type of guy who will help Josh Allen not give up on a play, right? Like you didn't see that consistently from other receivers that the Bills had, no matter who it was on the field, other than Khalil Shakir. He was constantly looking for Josh Allen, following his eyes. Josh Allen would point to him, point him in the direction where to go, and that's where you would see Khalil Shakir a lot of the time. And that's one thing I love about Khalil Shakir, and that's to your point where I would say, man, that's a deal I really wish would have gotten done. However, and you are correct, he is not a wide receiver number one money. You're talking about 13.25, I think is where he's at per season. It does make me believe that, at least for me, I want to see him on the field more than 61% of snaps because of that money. Like, he is making a good amount of money now, only played 61% of snaps last season. Now, there's plenty of reason why we can argue why that was. Some of that could be because in the fourth quarter of some of these games, it wasn't a contest, right? When those type of situations, right? So that takes away some of the percentage of snaps as well. But there are only, according to overthecap.com at this moment, we know this will change. There are only 2 receivers who are making more than $13 million and less than 14 million. And that's him, Cortland Sutton from the Broncos. He played over 80% snaps last season. And so and he's older than Khalil Shakir. So I look at Shakir, and I love the fact that we got him back. I think it's a great value, like you said. But I do expect to see him on the field a little bit more come next season.
So, Mar, what if I told you? Can we play a game of what if I told you? What if I told you Khalil Shakir's deal is primarily base salary, right? Like,
I would
not
agree with
a
you.
ton of guaranteed money.
No.
Right? We do see the typical Brandon Beane void year, right? Like,
Mhm.
you just kind of hide a little bit of that. You shove a little bit of that money into that void year, right? But deals primarily base salary. How do you tell me your take on that, right? And why that matters to somebody like Beane to have a deal that is primarily base salary.
Well, you're talking about the fully guaranteed. I think it was like around 20 million that he got.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're a fifth round wide receiver from Boise State. You get to play with Josh Allen. That should be a gift and enough, you know. But it's one of those things where this contract and the Rousseau contract, as we talked about in a previous episode, I want to know if these two guys have the same agent, because a lot of similarities with both of these deals. Like you said, it's got a voided year. Both of them have a voided year when they're 30. After 3 years, if things aren't really working out, you could still cut the player and save money. Like, for example, if the Buffalo Bills wanted to cut ties with Shakir, it would be a 3-year, almost like $24 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
I think they signed Josh Palmer for more than that, you know? So you're looking at it in that respect. That's what he likes to do. He likes to cover himself. He doesn't like to be married to some of these players like a Howie Roseman. You know, I'm talking about a team that just won the Super Bowl. I understand that. But if you look down the contracts of a lot of the top 5 players on the Philadelphia Eagles, some of those guys have 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 years of voided deals. And that's what Roseman does to get the horses into his camp. They run it. Okay, we missed. We went to the Super Bowl. We missed. Or we went to the Super Bowl and then we made it. And then you're going to have like 2 or 3 years where they go 7-10 while he builds that back up again. So it's one of those things where Beane likes to give himself an out with some of these players. And if, you know, injury happens or something happens with one of these players, he's able to have an out. And also, I mean, $20 million guaranteed, still not, you know, stick in the eye for Shakir. He's getting paid very, very well. But it's one of those things like when Joe talked about with the Rousseau contract. It's one of those things where if you're not cutting him to save money, it means he's living up to expectation. And he's building that rapport with Josh Allen even more. So I'm happy about the deal, and I'm glad that he's locked up. But it is like the Rousseau deal for me, where it's like, okay, but get more. I want more. I still want more here.
Yeah. Well, are either of these players enough to get you a championship, right? Like when you talk about contract extensions, you're like, I need my foundational pieces. I need the guys that are going to get me a championship. Are either of these guys capable of dragging your team to a Lombardi? Like, is that in their DNA to do? Because, yeah, they may be 24, 25 now, but when they're 26, 27, 28, these guys have to be the Bulls that pull their respective rooms in alignment. Are these guys that will do that for you?
And that's exactly the point I was just going to have, Paul. You know, when you think about the Bills this past season, you know, one of the best offenses in the league, everything sounds great. Let everyone eat. But, you know, I looked at that Chiefs game, and you think about that, you know, last few drives. Wouldn't it have been nice to have a receiver, a go-to guy? And Khalil Shakir, he's great at what he does, and yeah, he catches everything thrown his way. But he's not D-Hop. He's not, you know, some of the bigger guys who, you know, in the clutch, you know, in that 4th down situation when he was forced to throw it up to Kincaid, who can't catch all of a sudden. But when he was forced to throw it up, man, wouldn't it be nice to have a receiver who could just go up and get it? And I don't know if Shakir is that guy. And that's something that, but with a contract like this, you still can go get that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, not every team is fortunate enough to have Devonta Smith as their number 2 wide receiver, right? Like, not every team has that kind of a problem.